Let's start in the Premier League with that game I mentioned a few minutes ago, Everton against Crystal Palace, because we heard from Odsonne Edouard. We heard a little clip of Frank Lampard there as well. He's doing a great job so far this season. You got to give him credit for that. But so's Patrick Vieira at Crystal Palace, and I think this could be one of the more intriguing contests this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, with Crystal Palace, people have spoken a lot about the style of play they've been playing, but they wasn't really winning games. And now, the game against Wolves the other night, they showed great character to come from behind, and it could have almost been at 2 at half-time if Neves wouldn't have hit the post with the free kick. So, but I think Palace are in a really good spot. But it's interesting because I like Frank Lampard, but is he really doing that good of a job at Everton, realistically? Like, what are the expectations of Everton? Because I think I hear a lot of people say, he's doing this fantastic job, but I feel like when Ancelotti was there, and I know it's Ancelotti, Real Madrid manager, has just won again and again and again. But is he really doing that great of a job, Hugh?
Well, they're not as bad as they were last year, were they? They've got a decent defensive record.
Well, they were in relegation, absolutely. Yeah. But I still don't think they're doing anywhere near what Everton Football Club should be doing.
No, but in terms of the squad, new players have come in. They all seem to be fitting in very well. Onana, Tarkowski, Connor Cody as well. Frank Lampard's been speaking about the importance of getting Dominic Calvert-Lewin back as well and what he could add in terms of
But we keep talking about Calvert-Lewin, but he's just not been... He's been out for ages.
No, but I'm saying, but we know that he's got quality. We know that he can have an effect in this league. He just needs to find that form. That could be huge for Everton as well. You look at them so far this season, yes, it's only 2 wins, 4 draws, 5 defeats in their games, but they've conceded...
But they're sitting 15th. This is Everton. I feel like they're not doing as well as people are saying they are.
3 straight defeats.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about in its entirety, though, and I think Frank Lampard talks a lot about the fans in Goodison Park, and they've been amazing, with before the games and the players are getting off the coaches and that type of stuff. But I think ultimately, you need more quality.
I think they were so close to being relegated. I think a lot of people feel this. The quality of their fans inside Goodison Park and the difference that they made in the back end of last season was the difference between them being in the Championship right now and not. I think because they've started the season and they don't have those feelings of, look, we're going down this year. I don't think anyone really feels that in football. I think that immediately has lifted the mood. And I do think they can look upwards in the table. Yes, they need to get back, of course, to winning ways, and they can do that against Crystal Palace this weekend for sure. But actually, if you look at the way that they've started the season and the way that they've been in games this season, you just don't see them as being a side that's going to be in the conversation in the final 5, 6, 7 games of the season in terms of one of the teams that can go down.
Potentially, but I think
I get what you're saying long term.
Because if they're still in 15 for this point next year, I don't think the Everton fans will be happy. Realistically, they stayed up last year. I don't even think that some of the Everton fans, I think, were contemplating the Championship. But realistically, I always felt like there was going to be teams that were way worse than them. But at the same time, I just don't think that Everton fans, if they're still in 15th this time next year, and you're saying, they're not going to be in the relegation battle, but they're still in 15th, Hugh. It's not as if they're in the top half of the table.
If you look at the table, though, and you look at the size of the clubs beneath them, I think they can be pleased. That Leicester City, Wolves, Aston Villa, even Leeds and Forest, even though they're in the Championship last year, these are big clubs beneath them in the Premier League. I don't think they need to consolidate Everton. I don't think they're yet in the position to start thinking, look, how high can we finish?
So it's more or less like we stayed up last year.
There's been question marks over their players, question marks over the signings, question marks over the manager. And at the moment, there are quite positive responses to those questions, and they all could have been negative. So at this point in time, early in the season, I think most Everton fans would take it. Although Everton fans, let me know what you think. 03717 223344. Let's talk about that game on game day exclusive tomorrow to start the weekend off in the Premier League. Nottingham Forest hosting Liverpool. I don't think we give Nottingham Forest any chance here.
You know what? I actually backed them to stay up before the season. I always felt like they were going to be okay. I get asked the question a lot. 22 new signings. How can that work? And I'm like, well, Norwich came up, didn't make really any signings and went straight back down again. So at least they're giving it a good go. But from doing the game, I think I must be jinxed this week because I've done 2 games and both have been 0-0. Brentford-Chelsea, which was actually a good game. And then Forest against Brighton. And defensively, they just look an absolute shambles. They really do. And not because necessarily when they've got the ball, it's more like their positioning and they're just playing off the cuff. And you've got, they started in that game without an out-and-out number 9, and Gibbs White played and Jesse Lingard underneath, Brennan Johnson, and, it looked like they just didn't have that flow. So, and I feel bad because I actually thought Forest were going to be okay. I thought Steve Cooper, I think people have to be a bit realistic. When Steve Cooper took the job, they were sitting bottom of the Championship in the relegation zone. Now they're in the Premier League, but I think ultimately they need to get results because the amount of players they brought in, it's almost like an expansion team in America, I compare it to. It's a lot of players that people wouldn't really necessarily want. Do you know what I mean? Like, realistically, they put together a bunch of players and there's not really any foundations of the football club that are still there, realistically. And a lot of new players have come in and it isn't working. But not only is it not working, structurally, they're getting the ball and they're reactive. That's what I saw against Brighton. So, I don't mean to be harsh on Forest because I backed them to stay up and I wanted them to stay up because I think Steve Cooper's done an amazing job. But I think Liverpool, I can't see Liverpool. I think it's going to be 4. I'm just going to go out there and say I think it'll be... I know Liverpool 1-0 against West Ham, 1-0 against City, but I can't see them. Their back line for us are all over the place.
I think Nottingham Forest are starting to get to know each other a little bit. I think the players are just starting...
Did you see the game against Brighton?
I'm not saying that they're playing well, but if you saw some of the games a little bit earlier on, they haven't been great in the last few games, but the 5 straight defeats that came before that...
I think
were worse. When you look at the goals conceded in particular, like they conceded 1 goal against Aston Villa, got a draw. They conceded 1 goal against Wolves. Okay, they were beaten. They didn't concede against Brighton.
Yeah, but they don't look like scoring either, Hugh.
I know
to
that.
Stay in the Premier League, you've got to win games.
But you're seeing a clear indication here that there might be a bit of a turnaround, given that they conceded 6 against Man City, 3 against Bournemouth, 3 against Fulham, 4 against Leicester. The last 3 games, conceding 2 in 3, yes, they haven't got that win that they need, but that is the basis of a much more successful side in the Premier League.
I think Nottingham Forest fans might feel differently. If those were at the game against Brighton the other day, I feel like they'd feel quite differently. It's all great reading off stats, but when you look at it and you watch the whole game like I did, it was painful, to say the least.
Yeah, but you've got some sort of trauma from the game that you watched. That's it. Yeah. And you're just pinning it all on that, okay? Because that sometimes can work in your favour. If Nottingham Forest can keep a clean sheet, it will clearly give them more of a chance
Liverpool all day.
Of getting points in this league. Clearly, factually correct. I don't think it's going to happen against Liverpool. I think they'll win comfortably. Right. But I mean, generally speaking, for the rest of their season, if that defence is a bit more solid, it would be massively important. That's all I'm saying.